Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Rick and Morty Season 3, Episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. The first episode in 3 seasons to be named after and focus primarily on Beth, leaving us even more confused about this show's reality. How many Beth clones, Rick bodies, android Mortys, and misplaced Jerrys are we dealing with here? I made a separate video covering all my theories on that, but here I'm gonna go into all the jokes, Easter eggs, and deeper meaning that you might have missed. Yeah, I know we say every joke you missed, and maybe you didn't miss any, or maybe you caught ones we didn't, but shut up, let's just re-enjoy this episode together. And before I start, you know the drill, we want to thank our friends from Quid for sponsoring this video. Quid is an app that allows you to drag and drop stickers onto text message threads, including Rick and Morty themed ones, but more details later. Okay, let's get started with the title of this episode. The ABCs of Beth is a reference to the 2012 limited release film, The ABCs of Death. Kind of like last episode's Morty's Mind Blowers, The ABCs of Death is a horror comedy anthology made up of 26 shorts, all death themed. It's an interesting movie, not all the shorts are great. And I think The ABCs of Beth has a deeper meaning than this jokey reference, which I'll get to at the end. But for now, let's cover all the other pop culture influences this episode in our segment, Under the Influence. Okay, first, this chalk that Rick uses to draw open the door to Fruipyland was probably influenced by Pan's Labyrinth. In that movie, a girl, kind of like Beth, uses chalk to open a portal to a fairy tale world that's actually super horrifying. This visual also reminded me a lot of the show Chalk Zone. Also, notice how Rick describes how he created it.
Collapsed a quantum tesseract.
A quantum tesseract could be a reference to the tesseract sequence in the movie Interstellar. In that movie, a scientist's father also uses a quantum tesseract to help his adult daughter cope with her abandonment issues and eventually leave her world behind. Now, the character Kiara, the Crutabulon warrior, seems to be influenced by a few different sci-fi sources. First, she's kind of a combination of the xenomorph from Alien with the elongated head, but also the Yotuja warrior from the Predator movies. Meanwhile, the Variks that they hunt actually look a bit more like the Predators in the way their mouths open, but then again, they turn into these xenomorph crawling facehuggers whenever they get decapitated, so it seems like they're kind of sharing qualities. Anyway, I guess it kind of makes sense that these two would be enemies. That is, if you consider the Alien vs. Predator movies to be sensical. Also, her blue skin and soul bond monogamistic mating behavior is a lot like the Na'vi of Avatar. And yeah, she's got 3 boobs. First thing I noticed too, I just wanted to cover everything else first. That is obviously a reference to the 3-boobed sex worker in Total Recall. Later, notice this line from Rick.
Listen, I've been giving you a pass because I'm charmed that life finds a way.
Life finds a way is a reference to Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park.
Life, finds a way.
Actually, one could argue Dr. Ian Malcolm's chaos theory is a very influential source for Rick's nihilistic worldview. Feel free to use that in your next media studies term paper, nerds. And this might have just been me, but I was getting some major Game of Thrones vibes from Tommy's Fruipyland kingdom, with Rick enduring an endless list of royal titles and then refusing to kneel, kind of like how Jon Snow did this past season.
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Rightful Queen of the Andals and the First Men.
So I assume, my lord, you're here to bend the knee.
I am not.
And then King Tommy also says this.
I always find the theater is the best way to clarify things.
Live theater is also something we saw in Game of Thrones. In season 6, the Mummers farce depicted the bastardized history of that show.
Killing the man will do you no good.
Save him, please.
Show him mercy.
But really, we gotta credit Shakespeare with this. Shakespeare did it. Hamlet uses the play within a play device to guilt his uncle Claudius into confessing his crime. Just like this kid's play brings the truth out of Beth. Well, kind of.
Well, that's interesting.
Fake news.
Yeah, this is the second time this season the show alluded to the fake news of the 2016 US presidential election. This whole concept of children born of incest reenacting bestiality and cannibalism is easily this episode's darkest moment, especially when you consider that they got real children to record these lines.
I will hunt this rock. I will hunt this tree. Eat of my flesh so you may survive.
And as dark as that is, if you think about it, all these details are totally influenced by the Bible. Adam and Eve as an origin story doesn't work without incest, guys. Also, eat of my flesh so that you may survive is a total Jesus line. I don't know, maybe I'm just still traumatized from Darren Aronofsky's Mother. The extended list joke of Rick rattling off the creepy toys Beth had him make for her is my favorite part of this episode. I love how later Beth uses the indestructible bat, the ladybug taser, and the pink sentient switchblade.
Or to stab.
This whip that forces people to like you may be a nod to Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. I guess a whip that forces people to like you is kind of the opposite of that. I also like that we get a nod to Disney's The Parent Trap, but with a literal bear trap. Later, Summer says this to Morty.
I thought you were the alien expert, Isaac Asahole.
Isaac Asahole is a reference to Isaac Asimov, the science fiction author behind I, Robot and Nightfall, who's a major influence on the sci-fi of Rick and Morty. And of course, there was this line from Rick.
Has zero chance of going Blade Runner.
This, of course, is a reference to the replicants of the movie Blade Runner, the AI beings that pose as humans and secretly try to replace us. There's actually a deeper thematic connection to Blade Runner in this episode, and I go into that in my other video. Now, this ending with Morty and Summer returning to possibly clone Beth also reminded me a lot of that scene in Rick Man Seeing the Stone, which featured kind of a mirror opposite version of the scene with real Beth joining the artificial versions of her kids at the table. Let's actually go through all the other series continuity references in this episode in our segment, Callbacks. Early in this episode, Rick digs the Fruipyland chalk out of this Yuto box. Now, Yuto, remember, is the U-Haul brand of truck from the pilot and earlier this season. And if you look closely inside that Yuto box, you can see Rick's Meeseeks box and the Vindicator beacon. Later, in the background of the sushi restaurant, Brad sits at one of the tables. Remember, Brad is Jessica's ex-boyfriend from Rick Potion number 9 and Rick See Business. Also, Rick drinks from the same canned beverage that we saw him drinking last episode in one of the memories, Thunies. And this wasn't too hard to catch, but when Beth looks at the family photos on the fridge, among them are the old family dog, Snuffles, and longtime, definitely real, Mr. Poopy Butthole. All right, moving on. I really love the wordplay in this episode, especially when Rick foreshadows how incest is a big thing in Fruipyland.
I put real elbow grease into this place.
You're supposed to put elbow grease into your daughter.
Gross.
There are actually a lot of subtle sexual innuendos this episode, which gives me an excuse to bring back my favorite Rick and Morty breakdown segment, Hidden Dickies. Okay, there was this exchange with Kiara.
I know where Crutabulons are from, Dad. Chimentolo.
Chimentolo, younglings.
Hyman Cholo.
It's actually fitting for Summer to make a Freudian slip like this. The last time she met sexy alien women, they were the Gazorpians. Pretty much everything in their society was based on female anatomy. Speaking of which, Jerry then says this not so subtle line.
I'm sure you noticed what she has 3 of, but guess what she has 2 of?
Now, there are 2 things that I love about this. One, I love how the editing leaves this long pause after the line, which just plays up Morty and Summer's duh reaction there. This also sets up a really fun, subtle joke later. But before I get to it, quick aside here to keep the lights on. This video was sponsored by Quid. Big thanks to them. Quid is an app where you can collect cool stickers, cards, and Funko figures for free all on your phone. If you use emojis and stickers when you text your friends, Quid has thousands of free stickers that you can't find anywhere else from shows like the just released Game of Thrones, Rick and Morty, Steven Universe, Bob's Burgers, Powerpuff Girls, and Family Guy, cult hits like Breaking Bad and Star Trek, and from games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Fallout. You can just drag and drop these stickers in iMessage. See, I love Rick and Morty, be my friend now. And if you collect Funko Pop figures, Quid has those too. Now, some of these stickers, cards, and toys are super rare and hard to get, so good luck. But the good news is you can meet cool people on Quid, look at their collections, and trade with them just as easily and as quickly as chatting with each other. There's also a new feature. You can showcase your collection by adding stickers to images you already have on your camera roll. Just check out the profile tab on iOS. New stickers, cards, and figures that you can collect for free are released every day, including a surprise big new show coming soon. Okay, second thing I love about this Crutabulon anatomy joke. Notice how later Kiara's ex-boyfriend Trandor has 3 pecs, and naturally, what would he have 2 of? Notice the 2 hanging pieces of loincloth there. Also, I love the animation design of the Fruipians. Notice how they all have patches of Tommy's blonde hair. And this one, another hidden dickie, fleshy testicles hanging off his chin. Later, when Rick goes through the box of Beth's creepy toys, 2 of the first ones are a whip and handcuffs. Yeah, both of which could be used as S&M bondage type sex toys. Kind of makes it a bit disgusting that Rick made these for his daughter. And this episode features another disgusting song, the doo-doo in my butt song that Rick was starting to compose earlier.
Every daughter is a doo-doo from a father's butt. Biologically speaking, the butt is a nut.
Biologically speaking, a butt isn't a nut. But it does actually work, kinda, with the mutant biology logic of Fruipyland, where pregnant creatures apparently poop their offspring out.
Dinner time!
And as much as I love the dick jokes, let's move on to a more clever wordplay joke.
If nothing matters, why would you do that for me?
I don't know, maybe you matter so little that I like you. Or maybe it makes you matter. Maybe I love you. Maybe something about your mother. Don't jump a gift shark in the mouth.
Now, don't jump a gift shark in the mouth is a mix of the phrases don't look a gift horse in the mouth, i.e. don't question the intentions of the gifts people give you, and jump the shark, which is a common phrase for when a TV show goes too over the top, breaking the reality of its original conceit and turning off viewers. Let's actually go deeper into how this episode breaks the fourth wall with a new segment I'm calling So Meta. By the way, real quick, Jump the Shark is a reference to a classic episode of Happy Days when Fonzie literally jumped over a shark on water skis. In this case, Justin Roiland or Dan Harmon are hinting that by ambiguously implying Beth could be a clone, they're officially jumping the shark. Now, I would argue Rick and Morty jumped the shark in the pilot episode and is all the better for it, but that's just me. Now, earlier in the episode, Rick says this after the kids play.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Certified fresh.
This is a joke about Rotten Tomatoes, the movie and TV review aggregator site, which labels things certified fresh when enough critics like it. Rick and Morty Season 3, by the way, is certified fresh. Later, Rick says this.
Here's some things an adventure needs, Beth. Conflict, stakes, a way for me to benefit, and clearly Morty.
So meta. These sound like Roiland and Harmon's requirements for every episode of Rick and Morty. Conflict, stakes, some way that Rick can benefit, and yeah, even if he isn't part of the main narrative, Morty still has to be part of the story somehow. Later, Morty says this to Jerry.
Dad, you just got handed an Ex Machina. You're taking it.
Morty is referencing the term Deus Ex Machina, a Greek term meaning a late in the story move where characters miraculously get saved without really earning it. Rick and Morty has definitely made Deus Ex Machina an art form. There was also this final joke of the episode.
Arnaldo's isn't closed in the dimension where they didn't invent daylight savings. By the way, that wasn't time travel. There were just a couple pizzas on the counter. I grabbed them.
Ooh-wee, so meta! So here, Rick is explaining the time logic of this. Even if the other dimension didn't have daylight savings, Rick wouldn't have been able to order a pizza and wait for it to cook in a matter of seconds, so basically he's saying, nerds, don't overthink this. But this is also a meta comment about the show. Rick and Morty has never done a time travel episode. Roiland and Harmon have made this a rule. Even though the characters are based loosely on Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, the writers feel like time travel has been beaten to death in all sci-fi stories, so instead they conceived alternate realities as a way to explore the universe. Finally, there's this great meta joke about the answering machine in the post-credit scene.
Hey, Jerry, this is Michael down at the Antique Phone Rentals. I'm gonna go ahead and let you off the hook for the $70 late fee. You can go ahead and keep that answering machine. Nobody really uses those anymore except for exposition on TV shows anyways.
Yeah, answering machines do seem to show up a lot in sitcoms.
Did you get off the plane?
I got off the plane.
Okay, let's close out by talking about the deeper meaning of this episode. Okay, so again, this episode was called The ABCs of Beth, which could refer to a few things, the movie ABCs of Death, but it also sounds like the title of that play that the kids perform, the ABCs of how Beth is this evil devil figure. Also, notice how this acronym, ABC, shows up in this key moment with Rick.
My advice, take off. Put a saddle on your universe. Let it kick itself out.
I can't do that. The kids, Jerry, my job, and as much as I hate to admit it, ABC's The Bachelor.
So the ABCs of Beth are, in this episode, the life that Beth currently lives where she feels evil. So what makes a person in this world evil? That question comes up in both storylines this episode. Notice what Jerry tells his kids.
Look, I'm not an evil person. I'm just not very imaginative.
And later he confesses this to Kiara.
I'm not an evil person. I'm lazy, I'm cowardly, and I do not know what I'm doing.
Meanwhile, Rick gives this classic take on the concept of evil to his daughter.
Am I evil?
Worse, you're smart. When you know nothing matters, the universe is yours.
For Rick, being evil is just a less extreme version of the true nihilism an extremely intelligent person feels toward the world. This episode, Beth returned to a smaller version of that world, the fantasy Fruity Land, and she tries to fix it, but ultimately she just destroys it and starts over. This world that Rick built for her is just a smaller scale dollhouse of the broader universe that he lives in. Jerry admits that he's too stupid and inept to be evil. He's the grazing animal that Rick alluded to. Meanwhile, Beth is like her father, beyond the simplistic categorizations of good and evil. Beth is too capable and intelligent to let her world contain her. Do you think Beth at the end of the episode is a clone? Or do you think she stayed, having a last-minute change of heart that we didn't see? Also, do you think Beth has the potential to be more destructive than Rick is? Comment down below, and let's keep this debate going all week until the season finale on Sunday, the Rick-Churian Mortidate. Damn, the season went by too fast. Also, we're gonna do another giveaway, Rick and Morty Funko Pop figures. So thank you guys for watching and sticking around to the end. Just follow New Rockstars on Twitter and share a link to this video with the hashtag NewRickStars, and we'll send a few of you these vinyl figures. You can also hit me up on Twitter at EAVoss and subscribe to New Rockstars for all of our Rick and Morty deep dives. And if you want to support this channel so that maybe one day we can eventually avoid having to interrupt videos with ads, you can contribute to New Rockstars on Patreon. See you next week. Bye.